Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. I will moderate our work. I would like to give the floor to our guests who will say a couple of words of greetings. The floor is given to acting head of Geologists service, Mr. Kirilluk Oleg Vasilievich. Good afternoon. I'm happy to welcome you at the Congress. Thank you for inviting me, and I would like to inform you what is the service doing now. I'm pleased that this Congress is taking place at the time when the service is about to mark its 100 years anniversary on the 2nd of February 1918. The Geological Survey of Ukraine was set up, and in a couple of months we'll be celebrating our centenary. And all the achievements of our survey are great. Ukraine takes a leading place in the geological sector of the world, and the achievements that we've had in the form of geological data are very important for the whole world and for Europe and the world. But the times change, and if we look at what has changed in the last 20 years, I can say the geological sector is not in its best condition. I don't want to compare us with neighbors who created their states at the same time as we, but the geological sector has billions of reserves of geological data, and geological data is all in paper format, and that's why it isn't working for the benefit of the state. For dozens of years it hasn't been digitized, it hasn't been processed. Now the state, our committee, our survey has a very clear task to digitize all that data, to introduce amendments to the legislation so that the access to geological data is easier, to simplify all the procedures on procurement and getting geological data, to do mapping of the whole of the territory of Ukraine. We haven't completed, we were doing it at the scale 1 to 200,000, but in our plans is to make it 1 to 50,000, 1 to 20,000, and even 1 to 10,000, to 5,000, 1 to 10,000 and 1 to 5,000. And we would like to attract as many investors as possible this way. The subsoil of the state work for the benefit of the state and only for royalty, and that the state will get about 50 billion hryvnias as royalty only. That's a big money, but that's not enough. We know that there are about 20,000 fields in our country. They discovered but there are only 3,500 special permits issued, and that's where geological exploration is going on. In the recent years, the state, thanks to the efforts of people, has developed the program of the development of the mineral resource base. Till 2010 it was modern, but it isn't working now, because every year the program should, according to the program, 1,300,000,000 hryvnias are to be allocated to the works, but only 5% of that is provided. The state now provides only 100 million hryvnias for geological exploration, and that is the money which is too small. We cannot increase our resource base for such money. If we look at how the resource base was increased in the past in Soviet times, for 10 years from 1970 till 1980, 75 new powerful fields of hydrocarbons were discovered. Now, in 5 years, for the money of private investors, only 5 new fields were discovered. The science says that in order for the state to function normally and in order to increase our resource base, we need to do a lot. If we produce about 20 BCM, the increase of reserves is 65 BCM. Every year we produce 3 times more than we increase our base. And the investors who are working actively, they invest and they produce only 3 types of resources. In the recent years, we don't do any works on geological exploration.
So the State Geological Service had received the task to resolve this issue. So we reviewed the problem and had submitted to the Ministry of Environment a new program of the mineral resources based development. And currently, we found out that in order to implement that program, we have to introduce radical amendments or to develop new this new subsoil code. And now we have started discussions about intensifying work on the subsoil code passage, and we have developed our suggestions, such a radical suggestion to make a special permit, a kind of tradable document, a kind of an asset which could be sold or pledged in the bank, which could be used in the market as an equivalent of an asset. Then we suggested new definitions for the primary and secondary geological data, which allows those investors who want to get geological data for their projects to get simplified access to the information. That is, that information would be provided based on a specific fee, and the process of the information delivery will be simplified. Then, based on the some amendments made in a form of resolutions 495 and 615, allowed to introduce one stop shop or one window approach for subsoil users, those who wish to start some exploration project. And then procurement and trade of licenses was introduced at the Prozora platform. we have submitted our suggestions to amendments to the classification of mineral resources, our suggestions to simplify the access to all sorts of information and coordination of exploration projects with local authorities. Quite often we mention Poltava Regional Council, from which we received 69 rejections to issue permits for land use for geological purposes. This proves that the regulations in this area should be changed. Currently, State Geological Survey has more than 3,500 employees, 14 service enterprises. I feel satisfied that in this year we experienced no losses, but received some profit. That's why we try to encourage our service enterprises to provide services to private enterprises. Then we carry out some international projects in Chile, in Belarus, and some other countries. State Geological Survey work transparently. We have a public council under our umbrella. We invite all geological professional associations to participate in those public council. And we are preparing to celebrate the centenary of our service in January. And we have invited the European Union Association of Geologists. They will come to participate in this event. Also, we expect to have our colleagues from the US, Canada, and other parts of the world, some 50 foreign delegations in total. And we cordially invite you to participate in that event in January, devoted to the centenary of our survey, and to discuss the most topical issues of the geological sector. Keeping in mind all those regulations applied in Europe, we have to make good use of all that big bulk of documents. Thank you for your attention.